Oh, yeah. Happy Comic Book Day, and thank you to Bad Mary for that too sweet play-in. Welcome all you four-color funny book aficionados. This is U.S. Comics Cast, Chapter 2, Episode 23, two topics, 60 minutes for the people. Of course, I'm John Rivera, the CEO and co-founder of U.S. Comics. Charmed, I'm sure.
And that makes me your hybrid panda, the co-founder, the co-host, and your favorite Long Island IC, Charlie motherfucking Rivera, my brother. Happy Comic Book Day to you, my friend.
Charlie is coming through with the profanity before the 2-minute mark. That's how
I fucking roll.
Impressive.
This show is for adults and anyone who's willing to watch.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Look, I think that your fire is certainly well deserved, not because it's 2,000 degrees outside and in actuality everything is literally on fire. No. I mean just because of the plethora of news that is just flying around the air. Charlie looking up some news on his phone right now like he don't give a damn.
That's
but the fact of the matter is that there is stuff popping off. Loki drops today.
Yes.
Damn, Dungeons and Dragons has begun production. So go ahead and roll a spell or some kind of crazy nerdy bullshit that friend Jordan is gonna have to explain us to. Indiana Jones 5 set pictures have dropped.
Baby.
My man
good.
Harrison wearing the fedora, wearing the tan on tan with the leather bomber ensemble, like only he can do.
And you can pull off because you got that nice skin.
That's why
it's the light, Tansky.
Got to moisturize, bro. Stay out of the sun. What else is even happening? Damn bloody Keaton Batman suit pictures. Cheap everywhere you look. There they are. Damn, Why the Last Man, Archer season 12, and What We Do in the Shadows get premiere dates for their most recent upcoming seasons. So there is news aplenty. But I have to say,
tell me now,
in my expert opinion, as CEO of U.S. Comics, the most shocking news was my own dear brother, who cannot take his peepers off of that phone right now.
I'm sharing.
The pure hatred, dare I say the animosity, that is thrown towards Queen's own Peter Parker.
Well,
what the actual
No. It's not about heat. It's not about just like this weird thing where there's something popular and I'm like, nah. It's not that. It's I am
like
taking. That's my normal. This is Comic Book Day. This is the day after Ghostbuster Day. This is a glorious episode of U.S. Comics Cast, and I am taking Webhead. I am taking Webhead to court. You ready for it? Because I ain't fucking around. Oh,
you're
shit.
Like Venom. You are like, he brought.
He's about to get
I'm
lawyered.
Not present. So Charlie has to go ahead and have the pre-tied tie on. Gotta appreciate that.
That's right. I can't waste time. But also, as well as possibly a new segment if this goes over well, I'm taking him to U.S. Comics Court.
Wow.
I gotta take that down before we get removed. Mother sucker Peter Parker, Spider-Man, dare I say you are not a hero, my friend, but you are a zero. And I'm gonna leave it up to my brother and our comment section. I expect them to chime in live on Facebook, live on YouTube, live on Twitch. I want you people to try to defend it because I think Spider-Man, not a hero. He is little more than an Instagram /cam girl desperate to social climb and better his own situation. John, my dear brother,
That's
Why don't
me.
you tell people? No, I'll tell you. I'll tell you because I know you hate when I kick it to you like that. I want you to tell me. Have you ever heard the statement like "power corrupts absolutely"? Right?
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yes, I'm
Sure.
very familiar with the term, counselor.
My argument has always been a character like, I don't know, let's say the granddaddy of all modern superheroes, the Man of Steel himself, Clark Kent,
Yes.
embodies the fact that that's bullsugar. You can give someone a ton of power, and if they're a good person, they do good stuff with it. By all accounts, I give to you and I give to the court.
Hmm.
Superman did not search out fame, right? He
No,
didn't.
certainly
He
not.
he found true love as Clark Kent and also kind of Superman, and it kind of combated with the
Yeah,
lady.
with Jimmy Olsen. We all know it.
Exactly right. I would argue that Spider-Man is just a social climbing little BIH. Let me ask you a question, John. How would you
Jesus.
describe Peter Parker?
As a hero,
Sure, but what about the man behind the mask? Little Peter Parker, did he grow up wealthy? Did he grow up in a mini mansion? No, his stupid parents died to get away from him. That's my theory. They crashed that plane. I'd argue the Parkers
wow, I can't
possibly
believe that
terrorists.
Marvel ended your contract just like that with this source material that's flowing so freely.
Peter,
No, I'll go ahead and I'll interject. This will be my opening statement
sure,
to the people, to the
sure.
jury, which obviously has to be populated exclusively with tweens heroes because you have to be judged by
Yeah,
your
it's like Invincible. It's like everyone who hasn't quite hit puberty yet at the beginning of their story.
kick ass is in there.
Exactly right.
Whatever. So no, I would say that here's a young man whose value comes purely from his smarts. He's a thinker,
Oh,
not a
yeah.
stinker, like our boy Apollo told us. Right, just making his way in the world could have been like could have been a mid '80s after school sitcom. Like his story was pretty straightforward. Certainly, as a young gentleman growing up in the Brooklyn, Queens area, I associated with him. A young man just doing the best he can. He is blessed by an accident that bequeaths upon him spider powers. Just a little bit shy before saving Uncle Ben. But look, nobody's perfect. He's a young man.
Nobody's perfect.
He's not a he's not a military trained killer.
Sure.
He's
Longest
not a
opening
he's not
statement
a
of all goddamn
maniacal.
time.
Yeah. Look, the burden of proof is on you, you son of a bitch. I'm gonna talk to the what's that, Judge? Oh, shut the fuck up. All right. I go ahead. I turn it over to the prosecution.
Let's begin at the beginning. Let's talk Peter Parker love interests. Peter Parker,
right.
the love of his life, his would-be wife, then it wasn't his wife, and then he sold his soul to get his wife, but not his wife because they needed to reboot the book. Of course, we're talking about his high school sweetheart, Mary Jane. No, before stupid Mary Jane was Gwen Stacy. Let me ask you a question. What was Gwen's financial situation?
Look, I'm gonna go ahead and gonna have to start calling the objection right away because to refer to Mary Jane as stupid, I think Charlie is hateful rhetoric. Oh, because she's a supermodel, she must be stupid, huh? She knew she was smart enough to go with her natural red hair color, knowing that if Wendy could do it, then she could go ahead and pull off and become a bigger star than any certainly Spider-Man villain. But that being said, yes, I concur. Gwen Stacy is love of Peter's life numero uno.
So, counselor, answer the question. What is her financial status? What sort of family does she come from?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, certainly they went to high school together.
Sure.
So they're in relatively similar economic situations.
Sure. What do you, in the parlance of high school, would she be considered like a brain? Is she like considered a brainy chick? Or what would be the first sort of a tribute that high school boys would throw Gwen Stacy's way? Is it that she has a winner's personality?
She's a looker. She's a looker, and she can pull off those severe bangs.
Of course,
so you know she's basically a hero too.
She's a looker.
She is.
The love of Peter Parker's high school life who,
Uh-huh.
by the way, he like let kind of die when he snapped her neck. But we'll put that aside.
Let? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
I would say Peter Parker's romantic feelings weren't based on her winning personality, which of course she had. It was based exclusively on her looks. I would argue that this first high school infatuation carries over for the entire rest of his romantic life, because let's just talk about this. Gorgeous blonde, sure. Who's next online? Mary Jane Watson, a woman you just identified as a lady who's able to pull off natural, delicious red hair, who rockets to fame and fortune because of right here, the moneymaker, right? And
No, I have to object right there again. Wasn't
object
just
away.
because of the money maker. She was built like a McMansion that you currently try to defile.
So not
it
only
wasn't just her looks.
it was
She
also
also had
her
to carry it around like a champ.
redonk body. Fair enough. So when he took a little pause, when he said, me and Mary Jane maybe aren't going to work out, let me go ahead and date someone else. Clearly he would choose someone with values that matched his own, someone he could bring home to Aunt May. He starts smashing a super villain who happens to be another absolute bomb piece, also as well as very much rich.
Just so we can clarify this list of nonsensical crimes. So your issue with Peter Parker is that he has the audacity to be attracted to bomb pieces?
See?
If that's the case, my friend, lock me up.
You know what the difference is, though, John? I happen to know that while you're not chasing either wealthy or delicious trim, which we all know you both do daily, nightly, and ever so rightly, like your Daredevil himself, a hero I happen to love and respect. But
just the fact that you referred to it as trim kind of makes me feel like the jury is going to be on my side. But please go on.
I disagree with that assessment, but I will continue, because Ellis brings up a very good point in our chat section. He tried to throw out an objection. Every comic book woman back then was a looker. It is a fantastic point from our wonderful and intelligent jury.
Look,
but I will
say
this.
Ellis is clearly on my side of the defense at this point, but I do have to respectfully disagree. Aunt May was not a looker in the comics.
However, my job for me.
In the current cinematic iteration, woo!
It's almost like Pete doesn't want to hang out with uggos, but we'll get to that in a second. You know what? One could very easily, the objection I was expecting from our chat section was, well, Daredevil loves a nice tasty apple. He's feeling wrists to make sure that they're delicious and whatnot, like he's Ray Charles after a concert. But who is Daredevil's best friend? Foggy Nelson, a poor chubby asshole, right? Who is Peter Parker's best friend?
Listen.
What social circle does Pete always seem to find himself in the comic book universe and the cinematic universe? John, would you describe all of Pete's best friends or mentors as insanely wealthy men? Men of power? Men of privilege?
Are you calling Peter a man whore now?
I am calling
Are
Peter
you saying that he
the
is
ultimate man whore.
The Queen's Lolita?
Oh, not only am I saying it, I am throwing out irrefutable facts.
You're just not. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I must protest this slanderous assault on a young hero who's just trying to go about the world doing the best that he can.
Okay.
Granted, now here's the thing, and this is where I do take objection. I begin to take objection with your initial assault.
Please do, my friend.
To you. So, prior to him having powers and being ripped up like he was working in the front doors of Abercrombie in the mall in the early 2000s, all right, prior to that, when he was just a can't see shit without my glasses, bumping into walls, nerd who was just getting by on his brains, on his smarts, and his natural photographic abilities, Charlie, who was his amorous affection thrown at that point? Did he have, I don't know, another a love interest or like someone that he was pining for prior to him getting his powers?
I mean, Gwen Stacy
No,
is.
no, he did not. He was still had the thump was still for Gwen Stacy. So the fact that you're saying, oh, well, he only went after a bomb piece once he got his powers. No, he was infatuated in love with her the entire period of time. That being said, when a superhero takes it upon themselves to come up with an alternate, with a secret identity, why do they do that? Perchance, is it because they think that only a mask? Look, people don't want to wear masks now when there are pandemics flying through the
Valid.
air, much less super villains. Spider-Man, your boy, aka Peter Parker, said, "You know what? I'm gonna wear an over-the-head mask, even cover up my ears, not because it matches my webbed
Unitard?
suit, but because I want to protect those
Oh,
loved ones."
I object, my delightful counselor. I object because that is not why Spider-Man put on the goofy web suit. It is not why he covered his face. It's because he wanted fame and fortune, because
I hate to admit it, you are
I
already swaying the
distinctly
jury.
remember,
Ellis has
I
flip flopped.
distinct.
Ellis has flip flopped like a fucking like the coin toss at the Super Bowl. Thanks a lot, Ellis.
I would like to bring to the jury and the court's attention that this man, his first instinct was to use his amazing powers not to save people, not to get cats out of trees and save babies. It was to become a pro wrestler. Now, John, I ask you, while he was
Yes.
pining for Gwen Stacy with no
Who
muscles
wasn't?
and 1084 vision because he was a bobblehead little geek,
He's like,
did he spend a lot of time hanging out at pro wrestling shows? It wasn't until he had an unfair advantage and web powers that he decided to try to make Bonesaw pay. And that brings me to my other point. Not
Holy
only
cow.
is he only about hot girls for the fact that they are hot, not to say that these women don't have wonderful traits. I think each and every one of these characters happens to be a lovely, well-rounded person that another Marvel
Sure.
superhero or any superhero, even some supervillains, would absolutely love them for their personalities, not exclusively their looks. But I also tell the court he was just a fame whore until he got ripped off on a payday. It's bad enough that he's a fame whore. It's bad enough that he's a social climber. But the minute his envelope was a little bit light, he's going to allow a criminal to run past him. And only when he accidentally causes the death of his uncle. He caused Uncle Ben, rest in peace, rest in
No
power.
more rice for you,
You
Pete.
rice selling some bitch. Only then he decides, I'm going to be a hero, but also kind of a problematic social climber, because even as Spider-Man, true or false, he has at one point or another been a member of the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the X-Men, any social status that he can achieve, any group he can make himself part
Social
of
status?
and get the rub. Oh, the X-Men saved the day. Oddly enough, Pete's there. Oh, the Fantastic Four are hanging out with like demigods from space. Spider-Man is there. But John, let me ask you this. Let me ask you
Please do.
something. In 2021, would you agree that problematic language is in fact a thing?
Certainly not for you, but I would say yeah for the general public.
So I just randomly Googled Spider-Man quotes. Let's see. Now, mind you, when you do the similar search for, let's say, a Spider-Man, up, and away. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Now, given he doesn't say that shit, and
Right.
Google's just kind of dumb, but
Yes.
nonetheless tends to be positive things. When we look up Spider-Man quotes on the Google machine, these have not been randomized. They've not been selected. I
No,
haven't
I'm
selected.
sure he didn't curate those responses at all.
When another wealthy man who used to fight Daredevil decides that suddenly Spider-Man has to get in the way and he's fighting Kingpin, Kingpin goes to attack him and he says from a notepad, because he wrote them down in preparation for a fight against the guy who's trying to take over the city. Wait, how about this one? Your belly button makes an echo. If you were a truck, you would have been a wide load sign. When you back up, we can hear a beeping sound. This man is clearly not sensitive whatsoever to the plights of being a large man, despite that large man being
Are you
quite
saying that
the businessman.
he body shamed Kingpin?
He, in fact,
Is
body
that
shamed
why
Kingpin.
we're here
And
in
if
court?
that's
All
not,
right, so,
no. If it was
Your
just
Honor,
that,
can
it
we
was
please
just
wrap
that,
this up?
objection. I want to make one more point. If it was
Please.
only a
So let's stop
matter of,
you.
if it was only a matter of being rude to a smaller group that, let's be honest, a lot of people take liberties with because they don't consider it a real problem or a real disease.
I would not refer to Kingpin as small or anything, but I'll go ahead. I'll take your point. Sure.
Your Honor, I would like to highlight that on the record. I'm sorry, this alleged prosecutor or defense attorney,
defendant,
rather,
sir,
is quite the piece of shit. And he said, "Yeah, good job correcting me, bozo."
Yeah.
How about this from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies? Talking to Bonesaw when he's trying to be rich and famous off of Bonesaw's hard work and dedication to the sport of professional wrestling. He says, "That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?" Spider-Man is also a homophobe on top of all his other issues, on top of all his other
first of all,
ignoramuses.
all right, Your Honor, please,
take
order in the court.
Go
please.
right ahead. Go
First
right ahead.
of all,
Defend.
I will go ahead
dangerous
and
language.
I'm going to instantly debunk Charlie's trash accusations. First and first, mostly, we do not need to be in this current court of law. I would like to have the honorable judge throw this case out into the streets where it belongs and also where my esteemed co-counselor belongs as well. Because the fact of the matter is, this is a court for adults. Spider-Man, as he should properly be referred to, you racist son of a bitch. You know his name. You called his name. I'm sure you probably called Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay as well. You hateful son of a bitch. Anyway,
his mama called him Cassius. I'm going to call him Cassius.
Of course, you would. In any case, Peter Parker, whatever the accusations, weak as they might be, does not belong in this adult arena. He is a child, Charlie. A child. You're the kind of guy, if you're sitting on a plane, albeit if not in first class on your way to Hawaii like usual, you're at least sitting in the extra legroom seats. You're the kind of guy that if he gets a slight little a little tap on the back of his chair, turns around and starts screaming at the motherfucker like a monster, and it turns out it's just a little child. Charlie, sometimes children do things that as an adult we would never do. Even more to the point, and I'd be more than happy to trot out some examples that Charlie boy was actually guilty of as well, because I have the dents in my head to prove it.
I am not on trial here. I am objection.
Sometimes the self-same individual that might do something as a child, nay, even as a young adult, they might do or say something, even maybe handle themselves in such a way that as a more mature adult who has done a little bit of life living and now has a frame of reference for the choices that we make in life would never indeed do. I'm not saying that Peter Parker, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I am not saying that Peter Parker is a perfect human being. I am saying that amongst being the most powerful of the earth-bound heroes in the Marvel Universe, and undoubtedly having the most powerful villains collection, rogues gallery, as it were.
Yes,
certainly they keep him busy. I would say this, J. Jonah Jameson Jr., I would say this, that anything he might have done or said that was questionable in his younger days was done by design by a certain genius by the name of Stan Lee. He did this on purpose. He clearly was showing the fact that while an individual might be gifted by God granted circumstance powers to do things beyond that of mortal man, he indeed is not perfect, and that lack of perfection has consequences. However, it is not a sin nor a crime, even here in U.S. Comics Court, to fall. The only crime is to not get back up again. And I will say this, unless you're talking about the Spider-Gwen version, the only loser that didn't get up after she fell was Gwen. I rest my case.
How dare you, sir? How very dare you? Ladies and gentlemen, heroes and villains of the court, I'll leave it to you in the comment section to duel this out. Peter Parker hero, Peter Parker pile of garbage, because I would argue that the late, great, tremendous Stan Lee very, very simply knew what we all knew. Peter Parker is a social, climbing, womanizing...
That's not a crime. Neither is that.
Loser.
Peter.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth, counselor.
That's not me. It's the crowd, bro.
I will tell you this. One time in court, Peter Parker pretended to be a black man to further embarrass my client, J. Jonah Jameson, because he is a rotten scoundrel. And amongst all his crimes, Peter Parker is also a liar.
J. Jonah Jameson is your client.
Your mic cut out,
Charlie. Are you also an amateur astronaut? We clearly know who we can't trust.
How dare you? Peter Parker and his lawyer John are liars, just like that dirty George Lucas, because we all know
that I gotta agree with.
Shot first.
Even the clock is right twice a day, and this is Charlie's. Cheers, baby.
Clink, clink. I made that too sweet. I made it too sweet. My dear brother, how dare you be so wrong in court? Start my time, because I get to go first. Choked on water. Should have had the drink while you're doing the giant arm thing, but I didn't.
That still counts.
My dear beloved brother, we are living in a golden age of content. The content is still coming hot and heavy from every streaming service, and it's like very easy to miss something. I mean, hell, in your introduction, you didn't even mention Sweet Tooth dropping, which is absolutely
Why would
awesome.
I mention Sweet Tooth in my quick introduction when I had an entire section about it? I just want to say, for everyone who's keeping count, I hope this is on the record. When you're sitting there and you're drinking in Sweet Tooth, the beauty, the majesty, the amazing storytelling that is Sweet Tooth, I want you to take a moment and give credit to yours truly, because I told you it's coming out. It's going to be great. So I will go ahead and gladly take the credit I was not given. No.
John's the best. He has such a big schwanz. So while I was getting to absorb episode after episode of Sweet Tooth and just loving my time, I took a quick break, got together with some friends, and I watched the new Disney live action kind of side story reimagination prequel that is Cruella, which, let's be honest, she's never looked better. Ooh, baby!
Oh, all of a sudden now who's putting looks first? Interesting.
Hey, man, I also really like bitches who want to kill a bunch of Dalmatians, which brings up the internet being a moment of the week. A lot of people had a lot of people had a ton to say about Cruella. Specifically, there were people and there were reviewers talking about how dare Disney give us a reason that this puppy murderer or would-be puppy murderer has a sympathetic backstory. Now, first and first, mostly,
Why does your thing make that sound, dude? What?
there's something wrong with me. I'm
We
very
gotta.
unhealthy.
Somebody hit the pause button. We need a doctor. Is there a doctor in the house?
Sweet
No?
relief, I'm
Welcome.
sure, is coming soon. But nonetheless, so there were reviewers who started off fucking hour-long reviews for a 2.5-hour movie. It's too long. You got 15 minutes. Tell me if you liked it or not, you piece of garbage. In fact, don't tell me. I don't care that much, except for anecdotally. These people would go on long harangues. Reviewers I trust, reviewers I
What's
enjoy.
that like?
You're currently living in it. These people couldn't get over the fact that Disney had the audacity to try to tell you a story that, in my opinion, was clear as day, not what we would normally refer to as a prequel. This wasn't like Cruella Year One. It kind of was, but it very, very clearly took a lot of liberties with every version of the source material. It wasn't directly related to any single one of them. It borrowed elements from both, but it really got me thinking about this notion.
It was like the Superman Returns of Disney origin stories.
Very much like it very much lives on its own, and maybe it's because I don't have an affinity for 101 Dalmatians, the live action or the cartoon. I don't dislike them.
Or the dogs.
Or the dogs, yeah, when they're on the back of a fire truck, adorable.
Evil.
The bottom line is people kept throwing around this very weird notion that, like, it was unnecessary. And it got me thinking, man, every movie is unnecessary. Like, what the fuck were they talking about?
I mean, it's not necessary. It's not unnecessary in terms of like making money, which is clearly their intention.
And also, like, it's Disney. Disney's like main thing is like, hey, we have
Money.
these sacks of money. How do we spend one sack to get 4 sacks of money? They're like Peter Parker socially.
Or Charlie when it comes to sacks. I know.
How dare you? I just don't. I genuinely that idea that I saw across the board on a lot of these reviews, well before they talked about whether or not they like the soundtrack or the acting or the visuals, which are all like, arguably, it's undeniable. The album is banger after banger. Well, the actors all do work.
Full disclosure, I haven't seen the movie because I'm not the 101 Dalmatians head that Charlie is.
However, you're not a prepubescent girl.
I will say this though, that a great many of our friends in common who have appendages in that world cannot stop talking about the couture fashion of it all. Like the visuals of everything that was going on were apparently unbelievable. So, like, I mean, we are our very own mother. I almost just said your mother. Our very own mother has said as much that, like, she will watch shows or stage productions and things like that purely for the clothes. So, there's, when they say there's something for everyone, I mean, they really, really mean that. Whether you want to see an animal hater get their comeuppance. If you're like Charlie and just about looks, you want to go see a lovely young lady do her thing on the big screen. If you're about clothes that change their colors with fire, and you didn't get your fill with Battle Royale,
with Lady Legolas,
shitty sequel. Battle Royale,
the Battle Royale shitty sequel is the best way of talking about a franchise that made like $2 billion.
I appreciate that. None came from me though. So
I saw the second one in theaters.
Of course. Well, you saw 2016 Ghostbusters, so you are no example. I can't
be trusted.
But that all being said, look, this is one of those movies that, in actuality, whether a reviewer, I also haven't read any reviews for it because reviewers are. This is one of those movies that clearly has something for a lot of people. I'm just not one of them, so I didn't catch it. However, you definitely raise a good point. I mean, in terms of like Well, look, I was as surprised as anybody else. This is one of those. It's an interesting hill to die and to say like, well, this is not a story that we needed. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there are people out there, a great many people who not just love the movie 101 Dalmatians, who love the live action Glenn Close adaptation, but who love the character. The truth of the matter is, people love to hate the bad guy. And by bad guy, I mean bad person. So that being said, it's very often the case that your story's villain is head and shoulders, both literally and figuratively, above your hero, or whatever, like your four-legged characters. So
a lot of the times they're just more interesting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're more interesting characters, and quite frankly, they kind of need to be, because it's very easy to be like, well, that's the good guy. I can see myself in that situation, but though I'm not that interesting, and neither are you. But when you have a Skeletor, when you have a Cruella de Vil, when you have like any of these like motherfuckers that belong on lunchboxes, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. I understand why that person needs to be, kind of triumphed over. But that all being said, that's a 2-hour window, right? That person came from someplace. So I would say the exact opposite is my opinion, which really, really is a good one, is that those villains, considering that they're most often the case, more interesting people, yeah, of course their origin stories need to be told. Not should be or could be. They need to be. Need and should is the same thing, but we'll pretend like it isn't.
But again, that's the sort of level-headed thinking that I come to you for in this show, because again, we have like our chat, great as always. Keep it up. What up next? Disney's Gacy the Lovable Clown, which, as hilarious as that is, I'm one of those people that like really, I personally don't watch those documentaries. I don't watch those movies that are real life villains.
Boy,
because of the reason.
Not only do I watch them immediately before going to bed. And then you wake up like 2 hours later, the second something.
My logic is and has always been very, very simply, like, I don't fuck that guy. Like, I'm sure it's interesting. There's enough fiction out there I get my fill.
Some of these, I know this is unrelated.
True crime podcast for years.
But some of them, and I'll just quickly explain the reason why I'm the opposite of that. Some of these characters are so out of this world, like so beyond understanding of like how a person could be that should you see that in a fictional environment, regardless of how good the CGI is, no matter how good the dialogue is, no matter how smoking hot the performer is playing the part, you're just like, get the fucker, get out of here, come on. And they're like, no, John, King Henry was a real person. He really did marry eight women, and he killed like 2 of them. Come on, give me a break. Let's go. So no, when they say the truth is stranger than fiction, that's very much often the case. And look, a lot of these characters, you frame them up in such a way that, yeah, they're the mountain, right? If this was Lord of the Rings, they wouldn't be, they'd be literally the mountain that you need to cross over with your little goofy hobbit feet. Never mind about Sauron or fucking witch Gelfling or elf or whatever the fuck is chasing them down the block. No, I simultaneously disagree with them and agree with Charlie for once.
Well, yeah, it's refreshing actually. Let me just throw some ideas out there, and you tell me if you find them more or less interesting than a potential franchise sequel. Would you rather? Now, this isn't one of those
sequel or prequel.
Either.
Oh, okay.
What we're doing is I'm going to give you a villain concept, and I want you, and then I'll give you like the equivalent. I'll make it easy, 1 or 2. All right, you up to playing such a game on this lovely episode of US Comics Cast?
Give me the parameters again. You're going to give me.
I'm going to give you 2 options for a movie, You're going to
Oh,
get
okay.
two
A or
options for a
B.
movie, A or B.
Understood.
I just want you on instinct. You must see one. You're at the movie theater. You got your popcorn. You
One
got your drink.
or two?
Exactly
One?
right.
Gotcha.
Would you rather see a movie about the origin of Shredder, or would you rather see another Ninja Turtles film?
Shredder all day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Would you rather see a documentary on John Cena or Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the biggest bad guy of them all?
I mean, look, I would not just go to see the Vince movie, I would produce it out of pocket. It's an open offer, and I realize he's a billionaire, but Connecticut is pretty close, so I'm in.
Would you rather see? We're getting a new live action Master of the Universe.
Can you edit out my answer to be the first say that I would see the Cena movie, but then I couldn't see it when I sat down because it's just a missed opportunity.
Wait, I'll edit it. I'll edit it. John, would you rather see C Nation, the real John Cena story, or the Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
I'll go see the Cena movie, but then I couldn't see it. Hey, oh, you know what? Wasn't as good. Wasn't as good as I thought.
Would you rather see? Now this is gonna be a hard one for you. Would you rather see a Power Rangers movie or a Lord Zed movie?
Oh, criminy. Oh,
he looks so cool. Don't bullshit.
Is having testicular molars removed an option? Like some form of testicular root canal a possibility? Because I would indeed choose that. But no, to your point, I would go see the Zed movie. But in my brain, as I was paying for the ticket, I would tell myself it's actually a Zed from Pulp Fiction movie, so that at least I got my bonbons, I got my popcorn, and until the movie starts, I'd be happy.
I don't understand, and this is really what I'm.
Math.
I do fucking certainly not math, and I like do accounting for a living.
Sorry, folks.
What do you think the malfunction is with reviewers that they out of one side of their mouth are like Joker's the shit, and then these same people, I checked, it wasn't 90%, 100% of the people that were like, fuck the idea even of Cruella, but hooray for Joker. Why is it? And what was really interesting, Joker, which a lot of people very accurately was like, it's like Taxi Driver in the DC universe, kind of. Yeah. Which is fucked up. And like,
don't I get like a nickel every time you quote me to myself?
I think so. And they, like a lot of people were like, fuck nickel. Yeah, Taxi Driver, but Joker. Woo, nickel. Dun, 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 dun. These same people were like, Cruella de Vil, but it's really Devil Wears Prada. Like, you fucking hypocrite turds. Why I cannot wrap my head around this unironic, like, hypocrisy. I understand that it's more fun to hate stuff. I understand it's more fun to be like, that actress is pretty and fun and talented. Fuck her. And then when Disney's like, we instantly gave it a sequel, they're like, but the fucking box office was low, regardless of the pandemic.
Why is everyone quoting themselves two-fisted?
Everyone in my head is a shitty puppet.
Skiing.
I'm like those old Rocky punches, those boxing puppets.
Just like a fighting nun in Charlie's.
Yeah, which by the way,
you went to Catholic school, not me.
Those fucking boxing puppets would have put together a better fight than Mayweather and YouTube Boy. Holy shit, that was the worst WWE pay-per-view I've ever seen. That fucking
once again, my record is unsullied because I would never. Like Samuel Jackson's character, he doesn't know that sewer rat tastes like pumpkin pie because he wouldn't eat the filthy motherfucker. I am in that Jules category because I wouldn't watch it. I'll say this, Charlie. I think it's very interesting that many of these goofball, quote-unquote, reviewers who have less credentials than either one of us, because at least we literally have gotten plastic credentials mailed to us because of our creative writing. And by our, I mean yours. And by writing, I mean emails. We at least can say, like, look, no, these are actual credentials. I would say it's more than anything funny. It's more than anything funny. It's more than anything because these goofy bastards are actually behaving like little junior villains themselves. So I would say to this, if the jury hasn't made its way all the way out to the parking lot as of yet, I would say that in all likelihood, they are trying to kind of get ahead of the curve. And they're talking about these like villain properties, knowing that they're actually talking about their own ilk. They can see themselves in these doo-doo situations. However, to counter their nonsensical, poorly crafted points, I would simply argue that the villain's story is far more important ultimately than whatever introduced us to this group of characters. Because what's interesting is, and obviously I'm not putting it away, whoever the hero is of your story, them defeating the villain is a feel good moment. It absolutely is. But I literally can't think of anyone in reality or even in some of the greatest fictions that every creator that came before us has handed down. No creator that's worth their salt, and that was once a form of currency. No creator that's worth their salt will just give us a character that's a fucking dick out of nowhere. It's not Juck and Ferk status out of the blue. They don't wake up thinking, I'm going to be the worst person this story has ever heard of today for no good reason. Motivation is far more important to some of these, not all, but some of these stories than any of the action beats or trick photography, clothes that change color on a fight. Like that stuff is all that's the sizzle. That's not the steak, right? The steak is in the motivation. If this was the Peter Parker trial, your motivation for his bad behavior would have been far more compelling than your crappy stories. But that all being said, I can't think of a better example, and I'll wrap it up quickly and hand it back. You wanna give me an origin story about why somebody's doing stupid shit, and you keep it in the Disney family? Fucking Hades. Fucking Hades in the Hercules, which is one of the best Disney cartoons, bar none. Soundtracks, please, bitch, hold my beer or hold my microphone because it's got a banging R&B soul soundtrack. But give me Hades. Oh, Hades, he's such a jerk. Oh, Hades, he behaved so badly. Oh, Hades, he's voiced by a real life son of a bitch that had a school renamed because he was such a dick in a fictional cartoon world. That being said, Quahog notwithstanding, Hades would be a great origin fucking story. Here you have the eldest son to be born in a very traditional Greek family, gets eaten up by his Titan father, is unfortunately the last to be regurgitated out, and then his goofy younger brother, who just does dumb shit all the time, Zeus ends up taking shit over. And Hades is like, yo, what the fuck? And Zeus is like, nah, baby. It's cool. You're going to be the ruler of the underworld. So much so that the actual underworld is going to be fucking called Hades. If that doesn't make a dude a bad guy, if that's not motivation for doing some sketchy shit to little Hercules, I don't know what does. Give me the origin movie for Hades. You can even have Homegirl play the part too. I'm cool with it. Whatever. Blind casting, I'm okay.
Let me ask you this. This is going to be the last thing I want to just is there any character whose reason for being a piece of shit, let's say the sequel to Cruella de Vil, Cruella 2 Electric Boogaloo, that shit could be her eating puppies. And when she takes a bite out of that first puppy, I'm going to throw the flag on the play. And I'm going to be like, baby, no. Like, don't do it. If anything.
We can't kiss now. You got puppy breath.
I would argue it would make the hurt that much more spectacular and worthwhile if you make me love her first. If I love a character and then that character...
It's a fall down character. It's a sympathetic, heartbreaking character. So she didn't just do bad shit. She broke Charlie's heart on her way to the going ons.
Fun fact.
That's like,
Cruella's
that's
middle name, Stephanie, because there's a theme in my life. But sincerely, I can't.
you
It's
Peter
so,
Parker motherfucker. You.
it's so obvious that it's almost as if people think, oh, if I fall in love with a character, it's storytelling 101. The more you love someone, when they fucking are ripped away from you and still alive, if they did a Keldor movie, Skeletor, when he was frankly looked a lot like
Beautiful.
John, you do a Keldor movie and the whole
Starring
movie,
John.
you're like, fuck yeah, Keldor, you're the shit. If it ends with him being like, fucking skeleton face, fuck this little He-Man bitch, you're gonna be like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Not even skeleton face. The pure rancor that he throws his poor bumbling sidekicks away. Dude, you want to talk about like
he's a real
abusive.
Peter Parker about it.
No. Fucking Beastman, Merman, Skunkor. They would be at fucking Snake Mountain's PR department. They're
The joke is too funny for you to get it out. Try again. Their PR.
I'm just saying that there would be cases upon cases going to his lawyer. And look, I'll stand up in court for Peter Parker because Lord knows I can get there much faster than blind-ass Matt Murdock. But I don't even know if my abilities can defend. They say like criminals come in like, oh, wear a certain color suit and tie. Yeah. Don't have this guy on, have a certain haircut. What are you supposed to do when you're defending Skeletor? You're like, oh shit. Put this fucking piece of baloney over your face and just
bow on his skull head. You know what the real problem is? Have you ever read the bio cards on the back of He-Man toys? Stinkor's real name is Jeff Stevenson. Skeletor just calls him Stinkor, and he can't control that shit. He's half skunk. It's real fucked. Beastman's Jerry. My dear brother.
Skeletor is basically a mobster from an 80s movie where he just like picks the worst thing about somebody and that's the name. Hey, little on big toe. Hey, I fucked your mother. Hey, come over here, George.
Hey, I fucked your mother. That is the best, worst thing I've ever heard. My dear brother.
Yes.
This episode of US Comics Cast, and dare I say, every episode of US Comics Cast would be absolutely impossible without our favorite sponsors, the people who allow us to keep this show going, because it's not just liking the show, it's not just sharing the show, it's not just commenting in our comment section, but all that stuff certainly helps keep the lights on.
It's part of
that. It's our
stuff.
wonderful sponsors. My dear brother, why don't you start us off? Tell us about one of our lovely sponsors today.
It's so easy because we're already here on Facebook. Over at Facebook Gaming, which is just two lefts and a right from this podcast. It's Sergeant Finesse. 2 streams a day, outstanding gaming content, supporter games, giveaways, contests. Do not be a sucker. Matter of fact, today, on top of the gaming, he even throws a bomb Battlefield trailer that's had it on the way. Maybe going to change up the game that we're going to be playing for a little bit. Go ahead, check him out today. Throw him a like, a follow. Consider becoming a supporter. If you need to pick me up, though, real simple. Follow the White Rabbit over to sneakenergy.com. Use code SGT at checkout. If you're looking for some fresh new gear, like this groovy motherfucker, go over to geeksunleashed.com. Use code SARGE at checkout there. When Sarge is on deck, yes, salute. GG, son.
And now that you're able to sit at home, you can sit on your phone, you could watch him over on Facebook Gaming. You need something to do now that the weather's so nice. What's better than rolling down all the windows, heading down to your favorite summer locale, and cranking up the volume on some of your favorite tunes? Well, you could listen to one of the greatest bands in all the multiverse, and that, of course, is Bad Mary. You can find them on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook over at Bad Mary Band. You can support them financially over on patreon.com/Bad Mary. And my favorite part is they are available on each and every streaming service. So you can pop up your phone after the show, look up Bad Mary. They're there dropping the hits, baby. Bad Mary, they're not just big in Japan. They can be big in your hometown too.
Also, as well as.
That's right. My dear brother.
Yes.
Are you ready for your time to start?
Why don't you go ahead and start my time now?
Kadoosh. Time
Nice.
started,
That's
sucker.
straight official. Kids, as Charlie said, there's a lot of content floating around the atmosphere nowadays. And um we're coming across this kind of like I don't know if you want to call it a trend, or it's one of those things where like if you remember learning something the last year in math class, right before they wrapped it up for this for the calendar year. That's always like the first lesson that they teach the next school year. Like when like nobody really wants to be there, still kind of nice outside, but when you wake up, it's a little nippy. That's the way I feel about these flicks that are coming out. So obviously, again, we know that Loki dropped today, and Loki I have yet to
Which
see
is
minute
weird
one
because it's a Wednesday.
Wednesday, but that's going to be it's going to be Wednesday releases, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
for at least this show. But Loki automatically had something for me because I am into the conspiracy theories.
And
I'm
you
not.
love a brown tie.
I do indeed. Who doesn't? Come on, let's go. I'm not saying that I'm a conspiracy theory believer. I don't swallow them whole like fucking Bruce from Jaws. I do, however, I will drink them in even if it's purely entertainment. Like, that's funny. Imagine if that was true. More in that capacity. And clearly, Loki is examining all of these like urban legends and conspiracy theories. And Owen fucking Wilson is in there. There's a lot of stuff going on. But this is one of those things where something's coming. You're like, hey, I have a good foundation to walk into this with. So I will probably, if I was a betting man, and I am, and I'm in New Jersey, if I was indeed a betting man, I would go ahead and put my money on John liking this, which is the equivalent of betting red. You have pretty good chances, right? That's actually the way that I feel about the upcoming What If series.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
it is a brilliant concept for a show for several reasons. Allow me to ramble.
Yeah. You know
First,
what? Do it. I'm going to
thank
crack
you.
open
First, mostly, it's an animated series, and we already know going all the way back to the Animatrix, or we were just recently talking about Love, Death, Robots. Like animation allows you to do certain things in a restricted period of time and also bounce around. You don't need to use the same set until that shit falls apart. You needed a giant fucking green bowl to broadcast your surroundings like Mandalorian. You don't need any of that. Basically, all you need is a good computer and a mouse that's got live batteries in it, and you can create what you need to create. So what if the series is able to recreate many of the comic what ifs that I grew up loving and even come up with some completely new ones, but they have the luxury of not needing to drag the actors that we already know back in front of the cameras. No. They put them in front of their very own snowball that they got from Charlie 100 years ago, and they can just recite their lines, and the rest of the magic is done by the good folks at Marvel Disney. That being said, we have What If coming. My genius, beautiful mind immediately started rolling down the road like the ice cream truck for the first time in the season. And you just got your dollar. You're like, oh, motherfucker, nobody carries cash anymore. But oh my God, I got $1 in my jeans pocket that's been washed 27 times that I knew exactly where it was, and I dug it out. Is it a ball? And I just running down the street, dragging the poor dogs behind me. Yes, I immediately went there and thought, what are the other what if stories, nay, even the Elseworld stories? Because as we all know, as the comic book geeks that we are, What If was Marvel's brand of these hypothetical stories that took characters that we knew or thought we knew and put them in different circumstances, gave mantles to different people, changed histories around, what have you. DC had a very similar, albeit identical concept, and theirs was called Elseworlds. Now, what's really interesting to me is that some of these ended up becoming canon because they were so popular. The translation when it went over to movies, no one can argue that what we're seeing in many cases from the Marvel Cinematic Universe is really the Ultimates universe fleshed out, all cosplayed up. But again, I digest. I started thinking about all those other stories that are out there, the what ifs, the Elseworlds that just need to happen. Now, I don't knowing Charlie the way that I know him. If I asked him right now, giving him plenty of time to scroll, what is his absolute favorite Elseworld / what if story, what would he tell me now that I've given him plenty of time?
You know it's going to be Red Sun.
Red
Red
Sun.
Sun does everything for me. And again, I won't eat up too much of your time, but for
Yeah.
me, the perfect what if or the perfect Elseworlds tale is one in which it perfectly highlights the character. It's like, what if Spider-Man was a crook? Like, all right. What if Iron Man was in fought along King Arthur? I'm like, okay. What you really get me is like the whole world has like one fucking butterfly flap and everything's different. So Red Sun for me, the brilliance of it compared to even something else I love, which is like Injustice Gods Among Us, where
That's
the
two.
what if is like,
Folks, he's given us two, but it's fine. We'll give him latitude. It's fine. Go
but what
on.
I'm
Please.
saying is like Injustice is like, well, it ultimately boils down to like, what if Superman was a dick? Red
All of
Sun,
the all of the
Red,
Injustice series is exactly the same concept.
fun fighting games though.
Exactly one.
But for me, what's really dope about Red Sun is it's like, okay, he lands in Russia, USSR, fucking wins because he's Superman. But then slowly but surely, the Superman-ness, not only it doesn't revert to what we know, it never goes away.
Yeah,
He's
it was always
always
there.
it's this
That
beautiful
comic could have
story.
been called Superman Nature versus Nurture.
And
It, it
that's a
it
beautiful
was
way
one
of
of
putting it.
those. It was one of those conversations, like you can imagine the elevator pitch for a lot of these stories. And it's interesting that you went there, Charlie, because the fact of the matter is that I did not think that was going to be your answer. Look, obviously, anything with Superman on the cover is always
Oh,
going to be a good
where did
guess.
you think I was going?
I thought you were going to go with the grooviest of answers
Ooh.
when I was going to, and I thought you were going to say it was indeed Ash / Army of the Dead versus Marvel Zombies. Marvel Zombies, which is in of itself its own separate what if. Like, what's really popular right now? Fucking zombies. It
That's
might be
the
cool as the elevator's going down to the parking lot.
that's the
What if
equivalent
what
in
if
the
all of the Marvel heroes and villains were zombies?
that's like in
Oh,
2001 if they were like,
I'm not finished, you.
what if all the Marvel characters loved skateboarding and being radical? Like that's how easy that idea is.
Yeah, they actually did that with the extreme Looney Tunes. They're like, yeah, no, we'll make them all fucking black and edgy. It'll be really great. But yeah, I thought Charlie was indeed going to go with that grooviest of answers. Look, it's one of mine. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Ash. He is indeed the man. And any Sam Raimi movie that you're ever going to see, look for Ash because I promise you, he is indeed there. But look, there's a ton of and all joking aside, I did think that you were going to go with a Superman centric story, but I thought you were going to go with Kingdom Come. Rather, I should say DC World. I thought you were going to go with Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come might be it's debatable. I'm going to say it's the biggest, right? The most epic in scale of the what ifs, Elseworlds,
It's very
shenanigans that
fleshed
was
out.
going. It is so that's one of those like that wasn't an elevator pitch. That was like an Apple new unveiling of a product meeting. Like just someone had the stage, the entire arena is filled up. But I'll go ahead. I'll throw actually another one, which is completely I know for a fact going to be unique because you didn't come up in comics really when I did. My heyday,
Because I'm so young.
obviously the
Makes sense. Adds up.
no, wasn't that. You were just doing really dumb shit at the time. Um, my like heyday where I could get comics at will that I wanted. Granted, I grew up in the 80s and there was amazing comic book stuff going on, but I was still kind of dependent upon mom and pop's wallet in terms of like what I got or like what comics I could borrow slash lift over Elliot or Jason, our cousins. When I came into my own as a comic book purchaser was in the mid 90s, where I could get myself to the shop, I could buy what I wanted to buy, and there was a fucking what if slash Elseworld slash crossover, whatever you want to call it, known simply as Deathmate. And anyone who's unfamiliar, fucking Deathmate was like a series. It wasn't done in just one comic, but it was a what if Elseworlds type story, and it was a crossover between Valiant Comics and Image Comics, what comprised Image Comics at the time. And you had to this day, it's one of the most visually compelling images that I've ever seen. So if you're ever looking for it, again, they go by colors and they're like, oh, fucking Deathmate #1. No, you're like, oh, do you have Deathmate Black? And you're gonna get this one particular comic, or you're like, oh, do you have Deathmate Blue? And you're gonna get a different comic, and each one has certain characters that are interlaced from each universe, and it's a totally new story. It's totally outside of their canon. It's not their world. But fucking Deathmate Black, which kicked it off, it it has like two of their primary characters embraced, and as a young gentleman in the mid 90s, 18, 17 years old, I was like, yeah, there are some feelings stirring in the old belly because
That's how
fucking
John became a man.
Void, the character of Void looks like if Seven of Nine was wearing some skin tight shit under her regulation issued Federation uniform. She is so fucking like just like a little boy, a teenage boy's fantasy,
Yeah, like
drawn
Peter
out and
Parker would
reflective.
like try to
Yeah,
date
yeah,
her
and
because
also like me, like John Rivera also. And then fucking Solar or Solar, or however you want to pronounce it, he is the lucky son of a bitch. Now, what's interesting is this is one of those stories where, like, if Solar was in law school, his poor wife is like waitressing at night to put him through law school, and then he finally passes the bar, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna be rich," and she gets hit by a bus. That's in essence what they did. They kill off the love of his life just so he can hook up with fucking Void, who's maybe the hottest chick in the entire comic
did
book world.
Solar write his own like
He
fan
might,
fiction?
like,
Like
yeah,
he
he
wrote
might
the
have.
comic? Oh
You
no,
know,
my wife's dead. What a piece of
that's
garbage,
actually
Solar.
one of his. That's one of his powers. He's a great writer. But in any case, this was one of those things where, like, look, Image were the new guys on the block, but they were like their stories were isolated. There were pocket stories, which helped when you wanted to tell a story just within the bounds of one issue. Here you had Ripclaw coming in contact with, like, I mean, it was just great. Bottom line, it was just great. So that would be one of those, adaptations that I would fucking love to see in one form or another. Images, they're starting to wake up. They're
I
getting some stuff out
I
there.
love when companies when not the big two explore these kind of different twists, even when they're just like small and cheeky. IDW did an amazing, I think it was a 4-issue miniseries for Ghostbusters, where it was like, what if they didn't think to cross the streams? Like the notion of the first Ghostbuster film is like, don't do this, and in the final moments of the film, they're like, fuck it, let's do it. So instead, they don't, and like Gozer wins. So there's like a bunch of little Stay Puffs running around, just
Aim
a
for the
pain
flat
in
top.
everyone's ass, and it's like this great story of like, oh, this sucks.
Ray.
This really
Dude,
blows.
Was the end of the comic just fucking Ray like hanging himself? Just hang.
It was just Peter punching him about the head, neck, and chest.
Yeah,
You
I
son
can
of a
see
bitch!
that.
My girlfriend's a dog forever, you bastard.
Like, oh,
There's
the end of the world, Valentine's Day.
Has there ever been
Bummer.
ones though that like, for the most part, almost every issue of What If makes me at bare minimum curious, even like the dumb ones. Like they keep giving Punisher the symbiote. They're just like, what if Punisher was also Iron Man, so he could kill every mobster super easily?
But that's relatively simple because in essence what they're saying is, oh, well, what if Punisher was Captain America? What if Punisher was, fucking fill in the blank? What you're really saying is, what if this character that you know has no moral fucking compass? And it's funny too because fucking Venom and Frank Castle are basically the same fucking character as it is.
One
They
is
just
guns,
use
though.
different methods. Yeah, exactly. He's like, oh shit! Instead of shooting him in the face with a bullet, I can shoot him in the face with an extension of my arm. Cool. Like, there's nobody left. Yeah, I will say this though: the what if the Punisher killed the Marvel universe? I'm like, damn! That's one of those comic covers where you're like, you see Punisher standing over just deaded out heroes right left. You're like, that's just not gonna happen in the. Oh shit! It did happen in the comic.
That's the
only first time that a cover didn't lie to me. Holy shit! Here's my money.
I really also love when like the kind of central concept is dumb, and then I still buy the book, and then by the end of it, I'm like, no, it's fucking totally right. Like, why'd I just give them $4? What if Namor was born on land? Is one of the most fucking boring comics I've ever read. Like, why would I even bother? That's just brand loyalty.
There are literal like analogies that are used that are that concept. Like, what if Namor was born on land? What if fucking birds were born in the ocean? Like, what if fish were born up in nests in trees? Like, that's the dumbest shit ever. Now, I will say this. Sometimes I also, as well as, will pick up a comic thinking, I'm probably not going to like this very much. However, the buzz, that's what gets me. It's not so much like
it's like
people
the hype.
The hype gets me, right? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's sold out? I'll take that fucking second printing. It's one of those. Fucking Gotham by Gaslight. I didn't go in expecting like this is gonna be fucking straight fire, especially because as much as I like Hellboy, I don't particularly like that illustration style. It works for Hellboy, but if you had come to me and said, okay, we're gonna give you other DC characters drawn in the Magnolia style, I'm like, no, thank you. But it works so well in that Victorian setting that it was one of those rare situations where I had to say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong.
What about Superman's Secret Identity?
Fonzie.
Where they're just like, nope, this bitch woke up and he's Superman. It's so dope. No. I mean, I fucking had it in front of me, and then of course I closed it. But they did a
it's the funniest motherfucker there is.
I hate you so much. I hate how much you love yourself. Like, I feel like your therapist randomly is just like, enough, man. It's okay. It's okay, John. It's not your fault.
Therapist is like, let's take down the self-love notch. Just a couple. Just turn it down a little bit.
My therapist has said to me, like, not a stand-up act. Like, what's the framing up this story for 10 minutes?
Charlie walks in, he's like, hey, no respect over here. No respect.
But no, in Superman's Secret Identity, a wonderful Elseworld's tale that has a terrible follow-up. The concept is like, it's our world, comics exist, the Superman comics exist, then this motherfucker suddenly has Superman's powers. And it's kind of tracking what he happened to be named Clark Kent as well, and then tomfoolery ensues.
That should have been his first clue. He's like, oh, my name's Clark Kent. Just try to fly. Anyone who hears my voice now, if your name is Clark Kent, do us all a favor, not from like the third or fourth floor, but like maybe like a first floor rooftop. Just try to fly. You never
Dude,
know.
listen right here,
You
people.
never know.
People, look at me. I'm gonna look right into the camera for this. Nick Cage's son, Kal-El Cage, do not try to fly.
Yeah.
Look here.
What's
Your
funny
dad's
is
just
because you
weird.
know Nick Cage himself has tried already. So like that's a lesson learned situation. Um, unless you have one in your back pocket, one of said comics that caught me completely unprepared was fucking The New Frontier.
Oh my God.
And
Oh.
I will admit that if you I'll put it this if you came to me and said, if you have a large epic scale story that's told from the perspective of Hal Jordan and John Johns, Martian Manhunter, I wouldn't have even let you finish the sentence before you got five across the face. What? And then I'm like, oh no, but also as well as it takes place like just after the Korean War. I'm like, I forgot that was a war till you just said that shit right now. But the truth of the matter is,
I know the
that
words you're
era,
saying are words, but I don't like the order they're in.
that era, basically they should have said, okay, well, what if we gave you two underappreciated characters in like the time of Mad Men? I'm like, oh, take this money right now. It is.
I love your flip flops. I love how like
Oh
not
yeah.
only do you go in, you go all you like tore off your shirt. You're
I'm like,
just
oh,
topless.
only left. I'm just going left. On the right. Going right. Only fuck the left. Let's go right. I will flip faster than I flop.
You have a New
unless flopping
Frontier
is
tattoo
preferred.
over your heart.
In which case, flopping is the way to go. I fucking love that. The era is great. The art style is great. There's a lot of reasons to be there, but it's very rare that you have a story like this that's so big, where like each of the mini subplots are also great. So there's one large overarching story happening, but each little subplot, like every single participant pulls you in. It's fucking dynamite. It really is dynamite. And I know my list was kind of like DC heavy, but you know we've already
we're admittedly
acknowledged
we're far from Marvel
we're
zombies
we're DC
ourselves.
head.
I mean,
Yeah, that's very
but I
true.
will say the minute that like with the Marvel, it's relatively. I don't want to say it's easier, but it's like again, I know some people love it, but like when they were like, what if Superman was found by the Waynes and he's Batman? I'm like, shut up. But the minute you're like Peggy Carter is Captain America, I'm like, yay! Or literally, there was a rumor that the whole gimmick was like, what if Uncle Ben was I almost said Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark. Like the whole concept is Peter's parents are Peter's parents. They die, except his aunt and uncle are fucking Tony and Pepper. And
That's weird.
it's like, oh, the like movies kind of do that, and then it wound up being bullshit. But it was
Yeah,
like
not really. I did see they had like a very nuanced what if where it was what if Aunt May died and Uncle Ben lived. And that was one of those. But you know what it is? Like that's one of those stories where on the surface you're like, so fucking what? So they eat out, they have TV dinners more so, but like basically everything else is the same. No, not at all. Whereas whereas like Aunt May was always like, don't do it, Peter. Like I need you to be safe and this and the other thing. Fucking Uncle Ben is like, get out there, bro. Like we need what happened to May can't happen ever again. That's a prime example. Like go get him. You know, he was the first one to say go get him, Tiger, and then Mary Jane was like, that's not bad. I'm gonna go ahead and use that shit.
Go get him like you're a tiger and kill those fathermuckers. That would almost make Spider-Man like interesting and not a piece of shit. My dear brother, what a fantastic comment. What a fantastic topic, I want our lovely people listening and watching at home to please let us know in the comment section. Make sure you leave a review. All of our social media can be found at US Comics Cast. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're, of course, on the Facebook machine. Where anywhere you need to find us, you can hear the audio only version of the show each and every Wednesday morning. It becomes Wednesday, the show's waiting for you. That is the US Comics guarantee, unless we don't do it, in which case it's going to be like 12:05 because I did it too late. My dear brother, there is only one way we end this and each and every episode of US Comics. And why don't you tell the beautiful people how it is we do that thing that we do?
It is so simple. First, you got to turn the power on. Then you got to turn the volume up. Tune Bad Mary in. Open up the window wide and scream out into the night sky. Save your space, girl. We out.